is recorded for anybody looking at this afterwards. So I've known Libby for 12 years. I placed her as a special needs support worker or nanny in a very rather glamorous sounding job, which I'll let Libby tell you about. And so we were delighted that Libby could join us because she is now a Makaton tutor and run some training online. So we were delighted that she could join us for these Makaton moments. So I will pass you over to Libby.
Thank you, Sally. Hello, everybody. As Sally said, I've been placed in a wonderful position in the Caribbean on a tiny 4-square-mile island with an amazing family who needed support with a child who had complex needs. And whilst it was a very familiar story to everyone here in the UK, over in the Caribbean, there was very little resources on a day-to-day basis. Impact. We didn't even have a playground you could go and practice climbing stairs on. So it was very much a glamorous location, but we put lots of work in to work with this little girl. What this did, however, was ignite within me a passion and a yearning to develop my special education needs, and feel that when I moved back to the UK in 2012, I was able to put my heart and soul into retraining as a Makaton teacher rather than just a classroom teacher. So I now deliver training throughout Oxfordshire face-to-face, and thanks to the wonders of Zoom and lockdown, I'm delivering Makaton training across the nation, from the Shetlands down to Cornwall. So that's a little bit me.
Super, thank you. So we're going to run through some questions, and apologies if you joined the webinar before Christmas, because they are going to be the same questions. But as I say, we wanted these recorded so that people who are looking at this webinar after the event will have all of the information. So we have a few questions, for Libby. And as I say, if you have any questions as Libby is talking and explaining things, please do just unmute and ask her so that we can have a conversation and a dialogue, because this is all about just learning more, and it's not a presentation. It should be sort of nice and interactive, so please do feel free to ask a question. So my first question to you is, Libby, what is Makaton?
Thank you. Makaton's a language program that uses symbols, signs and speech in spoken word order, and that enables people to communicate. And we call this combination of elements concepts, and the concepts provide multiple ways for someone to communicate.
Thank you. And what are the main aims of Makaton?
So the main aims will be basic communication, to help understanding, develop language skills, build relationships and develop literacy skills. So to give you some examples, so the basic communication would be the sign for to help, drink, bed, no, and yes. All very useful things to communicate. And to help understanding, we'd also use the symbols as well as signs for a drink of water, milk, and juice. So if someone was thirsty, but they wanted to say what type of drink they wanted, there's a sign and a symbol for everything. And to develop language skills, for example, what do you want to do now? I want to play with the dog. To build relationships, hi, how are you? My name is Libby. What's your name? And to develop literacy skills, such as the cat is on the table. My dog is hot.
Super, very good. I want to actually keep going back and now looking at those and being able to do those signs, so we'll be able to rewind them and do them. So the next question was actually a question that was asked on the last webinar, which we all thought was very useful. So will Makaton stop people talking?
That's an often used question. So research has shown that using signs and symbols actively encourages the development of speech and language skills. Because when using Makaton, we always speak when we sign or use symbols to make the link between sign and symbols and the spoken word. So many children may drop the signs or symbols naturally at their own pace as they develop speech. Not all, but many.
Great. And do we sign every word that's spoken?
Well, it depends on the need of the user. So there are 3 broad frequently used levels of sign. For the sentence, I want to play with my dog, if you were a functional level, you just use one sign or symbol for I want to play with my dog or the dog, dog. Keyword level, where the keywords in the sentence are signed. So I want to play with the dog. I play and dog. We speak the whole sentence, but only sign those keywords. But for full grammatical level, I want to play with the dog. Many people with learning difficulties might find that number of signs or symbols a bit overwhelming, and they'd cope better with the keyword level. It's a broad definition, but it's one the majority of our users fall into. So we aim to use the amount of signs and all symbols that are appropriate for the person's needs.
And is Makaton just for young children?
That's what Mr. Tumble might tell you. But no, Makaton's used by babies, children, adults with a broad range of communication needs. To name just a few, adults and children of all ages with acquired brain injuries. I'm currently working with a lady in her 40s and friends. They want to have a social group and learn some signs where they can engage with their friend. And that's amazing because she is really wanting to express herself as she did previously, and they're using Makaton as a way to do that. But also people with physical disabilities or sensory impairments, those that are on the autistic spectrum, as well as children and adults with Down syndrome, anyone that's selective mute, has language disorders, there's a whole range. And of course, those who are using English as a foreign language, they'd all benefit from the use of Makaton.
And I should think now, at the moment, with everybody wearing masks, Makaton must be really coming into its own, because it's just reinforcing language that might be made more difficult because people are wearing masks.
Absolutely. And when I see the news reports about people saying that they've been hospitalized and they've had to wear masks and they couldn't communicate, and I just sit there every single evening and say to my husband, if only they and all the medical staff knew Makaton, then they'd be able to sign those signs.
Yeah.
I've often been in a dentist chair and taught my dentist or reminded my dentist of a few key signs before he's got to work, just because I feel that it's much, much more useful being able to sign clearly than to muffle from behind his fingers. So.
Mine would be stop.
Stop.
Maybe not so helpful, but and I know that when we spoke before, we were talking about it isn't only for people with a learning disability that it's helpful for them to learn Makaton, because if you, for example, had children, a child with an additional need at school, if he can't communicate with any of his peers, you know, that would be a real drawback. So to actually train and teach all age groups in all abilities would seem like a very sensible thing to do.
Absolutely. I mean, having had a background in early years myself, I wish I'd have known my Makaton skills then that I do now. You've got those children that come in that are maybe what we'd say shy. They're just, you know, they're just reluctant speakers. They speak at home quite fine, but within a classroom situation, they might be a little bit reluctant. And you've also got the people that are using English as a foreign language, and it gives them that bridge, and it allows the ability to make themselves understood and express a whole range of communication functions, how they feel and what they're thinking.
Yeah. And toddlers, the terrible twos who can't articulate, they know what they want, but they can't articulate it. I know that Makaton can be really helpful for that as well.
Absolutely, and just the example of the different drinks that I showed you. You know, we've got many a toddler that will be gestating at the gesturing, sorry, at the, you know, various sort of cups and things. But as a parent, you may not know if it's a drink of water, if it's a milk, or if it's a juice that they're wanting. And being able to actually express and define their needs is really important.
So how do people benefit from Makaton?
So it helps support people with poor attention and listening skills, and it helps them with understanding speech and language, learning to read and write and understand what will happen now and next. I've got a couple of symbols there to show you. So your now and next symbols, very useful for people who've got transition concerns, whether it be in a classroom situation, whether it be in a family environment. It's really, really useful for a visual timetable to have not just photographs, but actually the symbols of what's happening and really making it clear for them.
Very good. So that was the last of the questions that we had. Does anybody that's watching have any questions? Feel free to unmute and ask if you do. No.
I was going to say, how long does it take to learn Makaton?
Well, how long is that piece of string? So there are around 450 words or concepts in the core vocabulary that have their own signs and symbols, and they're used for functional everyday communication. And they're organised in stages, so you learn them at different levels. And when the programme was first set up, it was done very much what are the most useful signs for our users to learn. Just like when you're approaching teaching children to read and write, you do those most common words first and that are easy for them, and then you build on that scaffold. But aside from the 450 words or concepts, you've got a resource vocabulary of over 11,000 words or concepts, and that's ever growing. They're topic based and they expand to meet individual needs. For example, the signs that I'm going to be doing in a little while are all about COVID. So 18 months ago, well, no, even a year ago, there wasn't actually the need for Makaton signs for social distancing and that kind of thing. So we're making sure that we are trying to embrace the changes in the life around us and add the signs and symbols whenever possible.
So I think that probably leads nicely on to our now interactive section, where Libby is going to demonstrate some concepts which are all based around COVID, which we thought would be very helpful for people, because it's obviously very important that, you know, if somebody is Makaton signing, then that they do have the correct signs and they're being shown the correct signs, because there's quite a lot of variations on signs, but so it's important that people are learning the correct ones. So we thought that would be well, Libby thought that that'd be a very good idea, and we agreed. So yes, Libby's going to do some demonstrations of some concepts.
Okay, thank you. So the first one we're going to do is coronavirus. So for that, you'll do a C with just your finger and thumb using your dominant hand. And we call it a dominant hand as opposed to right or left-handed. But if you're left-handed, then that's what your dominant hand is. So I'm right-handed. Here's my C. And then with a flick of my thumb, 2 flicks. Coronavirus. Coronavirus. And we'd always speak at the same time as we sign. Coronavirus. Coronavirus and COVID-19 probably quite interchangeable in our, you know, spoken language, and at the moment within Makaton, that's what we'd use for both of them. Okay. The sign for lockdown. Finger and thumb, both hands firmly planted. Lockdown. Lockdown. To wash your hands. To wash your hands. Soap. Soap. So just 2 movements forward. Soap. So if you're going to wash your hands with soap. If you want to make that distinction with some people that might think washing your hands is just putting them under the water. So soap. I've got teenage boys.
I was going to say most children.
Absolutely. Sign for mask. Mask. So keeping our thumbs down, mask. And the sign to wear a mask, to wear a mask, to wear a mask. So the object is still, but the action of putting it on is where you do the movement back towards your ears, to wear a mask. Socially distancing, sign that we didn't know we needed. We do. To socially distance. So you're doing the sign for stand near your wrist, and then move your whole hand and do it by your fingers.
Okay.
Socially distancing. Socially distancing. Sign for home. Home. So you've made a little peak of a roof with your dominant hand. You've got the knuckles there as the peak. Home. So we can now sign hands, face, and space. So these pithy little slogans that we've got, we can adapt and use our Makaton signs. So we're not doing the sign for hand, but we're doing what the message is, which is to wash your hands. So hands, we're not doing the sign for face, but we're doing the sign for masks. That's what they want us to do. Face and space, socially distant. Okay. And if you wanted to know about the symptoms that you looked for, you talk about being hot or have a temperature. Hot or temperature. Hot or temperature. Cough, so your hands in a fist and 2 taps on your chest. Cough. Cough. No sense of smell. No smell. No sense of smell. No sense of taste. Taste. No sense of taste. Ill. I'm feeling ill. Little fingers, just draw down your body. Ill. So I have got coronavirus. I feel ill. I have a temperature and a cough. So really, really simple concepts, really simple concepts to get across, but it explains what's happening. I don't have coronavirus. I'm good. And the next ones I'm going to show you are for the other pithy little slogan we've got: stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives. So stay at home. Protect the NHS. So if you think about the meaning of protect, we're not meaning go out there as a warrior and stand there with weapons and that kind of thing. We're meaning help, aren't we? So help. The NHS. So we'd finger spell. N, 2 fingers on the palm. H, sweep across, don't go all the way, just stay at the end. And S. So help. The NHS and save lives. So we're not expecting our Makaton users to go out there and give people CPR or that kind of thing. So basically the message is to save lives. That's good. Stay home, protect the NHS and save lives. So we're thinking about the meaning of the signs, meaning of the concepts, rather than the literal translation of the word.
I think that's what we really picked up on the first one that you did, when you were talking about the different, because we had like Father Christmas and the beard and all those. It's not a literal translation of every single word, is it? It's the kind of like the meaning of the the sort of concept as it is. So
absolutely. And whilst we'll always say, you know, to speak at the same time as you're signing, one thing to think of is if you're signing something without speech, is it going to make sense, or is there going to be a random word in the middle of that you've signed that completely jars with the message you're getting across? So if you see people signing songs and translations online and that kind of thing, then do make sure that they are doing them accurately, the meaning rather than just the translation of the words.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just do those two again. So hands, face and space. Hands, face, space. And stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives. Stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives.
Very good. Thank you, Libby. That was very good. And I think that is really useful. I hope a lot of people will, you know, find those specific signs and concepts useful, because obviously it is unfortunately so relevant for today. So thank you very much for that. I think Jackie, if she is going to put up some links in the chat, hopefully she can do that. So she's going to put up some links, which is going to be, there's a fact sheet which is on our website, and that has some links that are to Libby's website, so you can see where she does her training and how to sign up for her training if you'd like to. And then there's also some other useful links on the fact sheet, including there's a video link, a YouTube video link from Margaret Walker, who started Makaton signing, and I definitely recommend watching that. It's very interesting, the history behind Makaton. So I don't seem to have, oh yeah, there we are. Thank you, Becky. So yeah, that is, yes, Libby.
Can I just say one more thing? Sorry.
Of course, sorry.
Just to actually give a specific to Lucy's question earlier, the timeline of learning things. So we do a taster session for those that felt they wanted to know a little bit what Makaton was. That's usually an hour and a half. But the proper learning really starts with level 1, which is spread over 8 hours of learning. Usually we do a full day face-to-face, but online we split it up into either 2 or 3 blocks, 2 different days or 3 different evenings, depending on timings. And that will be for each level. So each level, there's 4 levels, each level takes approximately 8 hours. And depending on your availability and the times that are available to the tutor that you're working with, then that's how long it would take you to get through those levels.
Sorry, Lucy, I didn't let that get answered. Sorry, does that answer your question?
May I please ask a question?
Of course.
Of course.
Thank you. Libby, is Makaton an international language? I mean, if I learn it here, can I use the same if I go back to my country or another country? Is it the same symbols, the same signs?
So Makaton is based on British Sign Language, and it is based on, it's used in many different countries, over 40 countries around the world, and it's based on their home sign language. So there are a few differences, but it would be similar enough so that if you were someone who was confident user of Makaton talking to somebody else who's a confident user of Makaton, then you'd be able to find that common ground. But just to give you an example, so the sign for mum in the UK, based on British Sign Language, would be mum or mummy. So that's an M finger on the palm of the hand. The sign for mum in South Africa, mum.
Okay.
So Mr. Tumble doesn't carry that one off quite the same. So it's just, so you can understand why they would base that on that if it's a newborn mum, but it's mummy in general. So there are some difference in different countries, but it is based on their native their native sign language. Thank you.
So I think we are coming to the end of that, because we are going to have another webinar after this, which is the CV workshop. So Libby will be joining us not next week, but the week after, for some more Makaton moments. So please do head over to our website and have a look at the links there, because we'll be posting everything up there. And there'll also be a copy of this this webinar posted up on our website as well, so you can review it if you want to sort of, you know, look at any of the signs or concepts again. And yes, I'm sorry to sort of rush this, but it's been absolutely fantastic, and again, so interesting, Libby. And we will, I know the Snap team are very keen when they have a moment to sign up with your training and learn some. We think it would be so helpful when we're doing home visits and things like that. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks again, Libby.
Yeah, it was really brilliant.
You're very welcome.
So